Mukta, so I mean, the situation is very grim now, and also it's changing very fast. It is almost impossible for us to reach any definitive conclusion at this stage, and we should not rush to any conclusion, I suppose. But we should not let this historical moment go waste in the sense, without documenting what's really going on and without raising new questions for future research. So what would be your suggestions for scholars working on mobilities and migration? That what kind of things we should pay special attention to, and what kind of new thinking we should develop?
Yeah, so the first thing on migration and mobilities is, and this is really a reflection on how Indian scholarship on migration has been very sort of labor centric. I mean, in the sense that they've looked at migration as a migrant labor question, and it hasn't so much been a mobilities framework as a migration framework. And I think for me, I'm also trained as an architect and urban planner, and that speaks to me at many different levels. First is a scale level, like what scale are we talking mobilities at? And, mobilities within a city are also as important as mobilities between states. And sometimes when we say mobilities or migration, we're immediately imagining an interstate migration scenario of, the sort of neoclassical imagination of somebody from a very poor village going to a very bustling city. And that's not the reality for most people. They may be moving just 10 or 15 kilometers away to access a job. They may be commuting, they may be living there during the week and coming back during the weekend. So I think theoretically to look at how the mobilities framework actually can speak a little bit more to empirics and to policy frameworks in countries which are experiencing internal migration as well as in global international migration, and how can the mobilities framework actually tie a lot of these trends together. So that would be my first reflection as a scholar. I think it's a good moment to do that when so many of us have been thinking about mobilities in sort of new and unexpected ways. So that's my first sort of this thing. Following on that, of course, is what the obvious other thing is interventions at local neighborhood kind of skills, and that learning from the and this is more of a urban governance kind of a reflection that we are in India right now trying to build a national migrant database, and to me that seems counterproductive when the failure has been at a very local level. So, of course, you should build a national migrant database, but that may take years, and that may or may not. I mean, that will face many, many problems of definition and data collection and reconciliation, and who's identifying. Is it self identified? Is somebody else going to decide whether you're a migrant? So, there are many, many issues there which will take time to resolve. On the other hand, at the localized level, when you are intervention focused, in the way you're looking at it, you may be able to actually do something quick and dirty and fast, which can help people now or in the next 1 or 2 years. And then you can take your time to reconcile with, other scales of database and documentation. So these kind of interscalar challenges of, where is the migrant or where is the human body located in terms of how the state sees a person is something that I think could be worth thinking about, and to really ask the question of whether the neighborhood scale is an important one. And the reason I say that is because even today, when we are facing this crisis of scrambling for oxygen and scrambling for ambulances, it's civil society that's stepping in, and that's then this sort of question mark: what does civil society mean? Is it your neighbor? Is it your neighborhood association? Is it an NGO that generally works in that neighborhood and therefore has some connections? Or is it some national level NGO that can get in resources from abroad, get large funds, and then deploy these sort of platform kind of interventions that can help a lot of people? So the idea of the NGO, which is a very well developed sector in India, is not very well theorized in terms of what is civil society, and what kind of non-state actors are the ones who are useful in a crisis like this. And what's really, really absent is any kind of coordinating mechanism between state actors and non-state actors. And I feel that not just as a scholar, but as a resident and as an activist or as an active citizen, because I really cannot answer the question of at what point and for what specific tasks does the state expect the civil society to fill in, and vice versa. Who does what in the system? And if that was clear to me, I would be able to say these are the interventions that civil society does. But when it gets to this point, I hand it over to the state because I no longer have the ability to do XYZ things. And that's what's happening. So ICU beds are controlled by the state. If, wherever they may be, there is somebody from the state who is sitting in those private hospitals and trying to streamline the demand and supply of ICU beds. So even if I have social capital as an individual citizen, I have to still hit that government system at some point of time. So there is an area in which non-state actors can operate, and then there's an area in which only the state can operate. But this is not very clear. This is not very well defined. And this is also, I think, something that we can learn a little bit from, to prepare for future nightmares like this. I'll stop there. Yeah.
No, that's a very important, first of all, the shift from conventional migration to mobilities as practices, as what's really going on in the world, rather than through a legal category or administrative category. And the second point about the scale and local, the importance of grassroots, I think that is a lesson we learned from different parts of the world. And finally, the relation between state and civil society. Actually, I would say this is a fundamental question to be rethought in the coming years, if not decades. My personal observation is that across the world, this time it shows, at least to me, the role of state is absolutely essential. I mean, all these major countries, even like the US is supposed to be a very, small government and etc. Actually, at the end of the day, it is a state. That's really open up all kinds of fundamental issues to be debated. And in this process, as you said, I think mobilities really give us a very concrete entry point and give us some empirical data to think with and think through. Yeah. So thank you very much, Mukta.
You're welcome, Biao. Thank you for inviting me and having me here.